and assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another tutorial of object-oriented programming. I'm with you MD Shajadur Ahmed, and today we're going to discuss about constructor in Java. So constructor is very special feature of Java. So let's move on and discuss about it. So constructor is a special method that gets invoked automatically at the time of object creation. So constructor is nothing but it is a special type of method that is actually automatically invoked or automatically called when we actually create an object. For example, when we use actually the obj to create an object, in that particular line is when we say like our class name is A, and when we say A is obj equal to new A. So this one is our default constructor. So always constructor is actually present in our code, but Java compiler will automatically add a constructor in each and every code, but sometimes we can see it or sometimes we cannot. So that is how constructor is used. Constructor is normally used for initializing object with different values unless different value are supplied. So actually it helps us to actually assign a value to an object. We will see an example. Constructor has the same name as a class name. So this is a method. Definitely constructor is a method, but which method have the same name as the class itself. Constructor cannot return value. So please remember that constructor cannot return any value. A class can have more than one constructor as long as they have different input arguments. So suppose you can use one or two or more than two constructor in your program, but each and every time the argument of each and every constructor should be different. There are two types of constructor: default constructor with null argument and parameterized constructor. So let us see some examples. So first of all, Java parameterized constructor. So a constructor that have parameter is known as parameterized constructor. So from the example, you can see that class name is student4, and we are having a method which is also student4. So a method which are using the class name is actually known as a constructor, and there is some parameters. So that is why it is parameterized constructor. There are two constructor, as you can see. Parameterized constructor is used to provide different value to different to distinct objects. So you can see that we are declaring two different objects with reference variable s1 and s2, and we are actually assigning two different value to the in respect to the object. So by using the constructor, we can pass the argument, and we can easily initialize an object in the declaration line as well. So just we are passing the value in this line. So this value will be set here. So the s1 will be 111 and Kiran, and then the s2 will be similar as well. So we'll display this one first of all, id and name. So that's how a parameters constructor is used. So it will help us to reduce the lines of code that is we are doing from the beginning. That is we are actually passing the value. We are using actually set method and get method. So a constructor can reduce the using of set and get method. Okay, so let's move on. Constructor overloading. So constructor overloading is a technique in Java in which a class can have any number of constructors that differ in parameters. So you can have a multiple constructor in a single class, but in that particular time it should have different parameter. That means the overloading concept should be applied there. The compiler differentiate those constructors by taking into account the number of parameters. So suppose this is our class name is student5, and there are two methods like student5 and student5 with different parameter. So because this is a method with same name as the class name, so it is a constructor having two parameter, and this is a constructor having three parameters. So there are two constructor, but with different parameter, as you can see. So when we are going to pass the value from the main method by creating an object, you can see the through the first object we are passing two values, so it will it going to invoke the first constructor with two parameter, and then we are passing three values. So this object will be going to pass value to the second constructor with three parameters. So that's how actually multiple constructor work in Java, and we actually called it as overloading, as we know that if there are more than two method with same name in the same class, then it is called as overloading. So initializing with objects, suppose we have three objects, then we are actually passing values like this one, and with this one. So it will initialize object like, first of all, create a circle with center and radius, then another one create a circle with 0 center and 0 and 10 radius, and so on. So it will help us to just pass the value from the line we have actually declared or initiate the object. Java copy constructor. So there are no copy constructor in Java, but we can copy the value of one object to another, like copy constructor in C++. So we have already used the copy constructor in C++. So we can use this concept in Java as well. There are many ways to copy the value from one object to another object in Java. Two of them are by constructor, and another is by assigning the value of one object into another object. So this one is very useful one. So let us see an example. You can see the class name is class 6, student 6, and there are a method named student 6. That means this one is a constructor with one argument, and this one is another constructor which is actually passing a argument from the another object. So it is actually calling the object, the first object. It will be clear from this one. You can see that we have created an object, and the reference variable are s1, and then we are passing two values. So it will set the value to the first constructor, and then we are passing the value of we are creating another object s2 and passing the value of s1. So s1 is not an argument, but rather than it is an object. So we can also assign a value from one object to another object. So we are actually assigning the value to s2 of actually s1. আমরা s1 এর ভ্যালুটা s2 তে অ্যাসাইন করে দিচ্ছি। So we can do that by the copy constructor. So now what will happen, the compiler will follow what is the values of s1 object, and then it will copy the value of s1 object into s2 object. So if we display s1 and s2, it will display the same value because we are copying the value of s1 into s2. So that's how we use actually copy constructor. So if we have more than two or three object with same values, then we can use this copy constructor feature actually. So what are the difference between constructor and method in Java? So constructor is used to initialize the state of object, and Java method is used to expose behavior of an object. Constructor must not have return type. Method must have return type, as we know. Constructor is invoked implicitly. Method is invoked explicitly. So the Java compiler provided default constructor if we don't have any constructor. So as we discussed that we actually when we are actually not using a constructor, internally there is a constructor present in the code. Method is not provided by compiler in any case, so we know that we must need to declare a method in order to use it. Constructor name must be as same as the class name. Method name may or may not be same as the class name. So this is the difference between constructor and method. It will help us to understand that what are the very close difference between those two, because we are saying that constructor is also a method. So there are very small difference between these two. So that is what actually constructor. So it will help us to reduce the length of a code, or help us to understand a code in better way. So that's all from this tutorial. Hopefully you guys enjoy this tutorial. Inshallah we will meet in our next tutorial. Till then everyone, please stay safe, stay home. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.